glad you're here. I would like to talk a little bit more about the rasis before we get into all the details. So what are the rasis? How are they different from the planets and the nakshatras? Parashar tells us right in the beginning when he talks about the rasis that the rasis are the limbs of the cosmic man. And Vishnu manifesting as everything is really a central idea of Vedic astrology. Parashar tells us the imperceptible Vishnu, Janardana, is the Kala Rupa, figure of time, whose limbs are considered the rasis beginning from the Ram. So when we are dealing with rasis, the approach that we're going to take is that we understand the rasis to be all the forms, the things, and the bodies in this world, right? It's that concrete material energy that is created by the sun's movement around the earth, right? The sun creates those 12 rasis, and they are the concrete things, forms, and bodies that are basically a combination of the 5 elements of earth, water, fire, air, and ether. The planets and nakshatras, on the other hand, they are the subtle material energy, right? Which in essence is our ego mind, right? That allows us to experience that concrete reality around us. Now, to make this a little easier to understand, we could simply call the rasis, the unconscious entities, and the planets and nakshatras are the conscious entities. Right? So basically we have 3 building blocks. We have the conscious entities of the planets and the nakshatras, and then we have the unconscious entities of the rasis. Now, the planets are the primary ways of how we think and feel about ourselves, about others, and the world. Right? There is the masculine consciousness of the sun, then there is the feminine consciousness of the moon, the business consciousness of Mercury. Mercury is of course also the friendship consciousness and the networking consciousness. There is Venus, which is the love and romance consciousness, right, and so on. So the 9 planets from Sun to Ketu, they are the main ways of how we perceive our life. And then there are those 27 nakshatras or lunar mansions that are the extensions of our consciousness, right? So every nakshatra allows us to experience the world in a slightly different way. And so those nakshatras, through the planets, they can create this huge variety of ideas and beliefs and hopes and dreams in all of us. Now, the planets and their extensions, they are conscious. And they give life in the form of consciousness to the various forms and bodies in this world. And when a planet is in a sign, then he animates that sign through consciousness. And depending upon whether that sign gives him strength or makes him weak, he will have the right consciousness to manifest, something, nice. Okay. Now, let's say a planet is in Aries. Then he will express himself through Aries, right? The body of Aries, right? Which means the body of a ram, right? He will also express himself through the environment of Aries, right? Which is that of rocky places. So the planet in Aries will express himself through the body of a ram and in a rocky place and all the other things that you will learn about Aries, right? Aries is red, so red becomes very important. So now, depending on the dignity of a planet and the influences from other planets, he will be able to manifest what is in his mind with fulfillment and success, right? Or he will be limited in what he can do and how happy he can be in a sign. And a planet in exaltation, he has the best opportunity to express his ideas and beliefs in a rashi, while a planet in debilitation is going to struggle the most to make that happen what he thinks is the best. Okay? Now, of course, there are lower life forms than human beings, right? Because consciousness evolves through matter, right? From plants to all sorts of animals. Finally, in humans, consciousness is evolving and becomes capable of doing different things as it is sort of as it has, a different body to do so. So as a lizard, for example, you can get your tail somehow cut off, but hey, after a short while, it grows back, right? And so as humans, of course, we can't do that, right? We can't just cut a limb off because it won't grow back, right? And so because of that different type of consciousness, we get a different type of body, and therefore we are capable of doing different things, okay? And we can measure in astrology how evolved our consciousness is in doing the things that we do as humans, right? And so as our consciousness evolves in the human body, we experience the world in different ways, and we can do different things, right? And this starts, we can just, use really a simple example of our body, right? Aries, Leo, and Capricorn are said to have big bodies, while Scorpio has a short body, right? So if you got your Lagna or Lagna Lord in Aries, Leo, or Capricorn, your chances are high to have a bigger body, right? Unless something else is shrinking you down a bit, right? And what that means is that your consciousness has evolved in a different way than the person who has the, let's say, the ascendant or ascendant Lord in Scorpio, right? Which makes them smaller. Now, the Scorpio person can experience different things with the smaller body than the others with a big body can't, right? They can, a person with a Scorpio body, they can sort of climb perhaps through narrow tunnels. Or, they can be a great rock climber as well, right? Because they have this light body weight. And this light frame, and so they can scale these incredible cliffs that are super steep. Now, a person with the Aries body, who is having an extra 50 pounds of bone mass, they can't scale the same steep cliffs, okay? And obviously it also can't go into all these little tiny holes to the same capacity that the Scorpio person can, okay? So with different consciousness, we then experience this world, differently because of a sort of a different body, right? If you have this sort of Aries consciousness strongly, so that, you actually have this very powerful, Aries body, then you can experience, let's say as a man, to carry, your girlfriend and, pick her up, carry her, and you have no problem, just do it for like 5 miles or something, right? Because the body is just so, big and strong, right? Whereas, the little Scorpio person can't really experience that, right? The body restricts the experiences our consciousness can have, okay? And so we got some signs that are in the zodiac that are animals, like a fish or a crab or a bull. And then we also got some signs that are human. And so you can imagine what the planet can express is very different because of the limitations and opportunities that sort of the sign offers. Now, that's on the really most fundamental level of what's happening with the rashi, right? The rashis are really sort of the body through which a human being expresses itself, and which also gives the human being some freedoms and some limitations, right? And when our experience is exalted by a planet being in an exaltation sign, that means that we are, Our consciousness is wide awake, we are positive, we're happy, and we experience the least limitations, right? And we have a lot of room for exploration and accomplishment. But when a planet is debilitated, then we are not conscious enough to have a good experience, right? We are stuck with bad ideas and negative feelings, and life does not reward us with a good life. When we are analyzing the rashis, one of the most simple but important ways to do so is to look at the planet that rules them. We cannot separate the rashi from its lord. Let's say a Taurus rising, there are no planets in Taurus. Does it mean that you don't exist or there's something wrong with you? No, it just means that to analyze Taurus or your first house, you can just skip Taurus and you can just go straight to its lord, right? Which is Venus. So we always look at the sign and its lord at the same time. And when we, let's say, analyze Venus, therefore, we always have to also look towards its signs, which are Taurus and Libra, because the signs of Taurus and Libra, they have Venusian consciousness in them. And the condition of Venus will have a big say on how those two signs will perform, okay? At the same time, planets in Taurus and Libra, they will also alter the effects of Venus. So if there are afflictions in Taurus or Libra, then that will dramatically decrease how well your Venus performs. If there are strong planets in Taurus and Libra, then they will augment the happiness and fulfillment you can get from the Venusian aspect of your life. And that's why we say that some planets are friends or enemies in those signs, or they're exalted and debilitated, because planets in friendly dignity or higher in a sign, there will be a good influence for that ruling planet, whereas planets in enemy dignity or lower, right, there will be a bad influence for the ruling planet. And analyzing the signs through the planets is actually also what we do with Rahu and Ketu. We are not going to include Rahu and Ketu in this course. They deserve their own course because they deal really with the most important evolution of consciousness that we make in this lifetime. We could say they deal with our most important life lesson, but we judge them just as we learn in this course through the planet that rules the signs, that they are in, and also the planets, in the sign that they are with, okay? And so all the other things, that you will learn about the signs in this course, they will therefore also very, very important to understand Rahu and Ketu.